Welcome back, everybody. It is another ATL on Fire podcast. Dave, Roy Kent, how are you?
Effing Roy Kent, people. Let me see.
Oh. Where'd you get that thing?
The internet, Mikey Dobbs.
The
The internet has no bounds. Yeah, I mean, AFC Richmond, right? I mean, who doesn't love that?
We are complete nerds here, people. And to be even cooler, let me get the camera on this. Check this.
Logo.
ATL on Fire t-shirts.
Swag. I like it, Mikey Dobbs.
This is my mother-in-law did some embroidering and did this whole thing herself. So
embroidery is awfully fancy for, it's awesome.
Maybe we'll get some hats, some t-shirts, the next remote podcast, which we successfully did at Elliott Street Pub last week.
There is a rumor that there was an ATL on Fire podcast from behind the Elliott Street Pub. Is that true, Mikey Dobbs?
It's very true. We took electricity on the road in a pub parking lot and did this.
Pulled it off.
So hopefully some listeners will come join us next time we do it. We'll send out some tweets so you can join us. And the season's already like in fast motion here.
We're gone.
One win, one loss, right?
Yep.
So obviously we enjoyed the home opener. It felt good to be back in the Mercedes-Benz, that's for sure. Felt a little optimism because the home game certainly didn't have our best players. Certainly didn't have our best players against Colorado, but yeah.
Yeah, we talked about, the possibility of a slow start because of the mama, right? We only had in the end. We started out with ma, but in the end, Araujo limped off, and so then we had
So, speaking of what are we drinking? We got another bottle of red wine.
I don't typically do this, but the inaugural podcast for this season, we had this Chateau Saint Michel Indian Wells, and it was so delicious. I brought another bottle.
Well, I'm happy about it.
Cheers.
Salud. That is really, really nice, and much needed after a long week. And this is a great way to finish it. Talking about Atlanta United. You know what else I have, Dave?
What?
I think you know because it's on the agenda.
Uh-oh.
ATL on Fire trivia. All right, people. No. This is where this is a segment we do on the show where I bring random knowledge to the listeners that you will hopefully try to forget as soon as you listen to it. But
Mikey Dobbs has reached the end of the internet.
I have. So this one's very MLS centric in terms of where the league's going and some trivia questions that are more MLS related than they are Atlanta United. But because I'm excited about the league, I really am bullish around
sure.
its growth with 2 World Cups coming rapidly in 2026. We'll be here before we know it. In the United States, we'll have a lot of soccer. But in a 2018 poll, Americans favored baseball or soccer more as their preferred sport. And this is in a 2018 poll from, maybe a legitimate poll or not. But
I had heard actually that soccer had surpassed baseball overall as America's 3rd most popular sport. So I'm going to go with soccer.
So this is 2018. You might be right now.
Okay.
It was 7% of Americans cited soccer as their favorite sport, while 9% preferred Americans' pastime of baseball. So that would make sense. I would bet maybe now it's right at the tipping point.
I saw a stat about this, and it wasn't necessarily MLS versus Major League Baseball. It was the overall baseball versus soccer, versus the sport.
And that's where these polls and stats get sticky. But the interesting thing is that obviously soccer is making, we've surpassed hockey.
Yeah.
It's now making a run at baseball. There could be, 5,
and with the
10
lockout
years.
In the baseball season, who knows?
Exactly. I mean, really, baseball just continues to shoot themselves in the foot after the glorious Braves win. They can't figure it out.
Yep.
And, the MLS in terms of franchises that, these billionaires want to buy into, the valuation of MLS clubs is very significant. Do you think the average valuation of an MLS team right now is above or below $500 million?
I'm going to still say that it's below. I mean, it's probably getting up there, but I'm still going to say average is below.
So again, this is from some source. I don't know. I don't even have it cited here, but they said it was 550 million.
Oh, 0 for 2.
And I mean, that's about 5 times more than like a Champions.
You like to make these fine, it's like above or below, and it's like 501, It's tough.
It is tough,
it's good. I like it.
No, I mean, it's about educating the listeners.
For sure.
The English Champions League, the one below the Premier League, the average valuation is probably like, 1/5 of that. Like you're talking like, 100, 200,000 or 200 million at most. So, and then, the big clubs in the EPL are certainly valued,
way more,
3 billion, but actually the ones in the mid-table are about the same.
Well, didn't Roman Abramovich say that, so he's selling Chelsea, right? And he said something like he's trying to sell it for like 15 billion or something. And people were like, you got to be kidding me. No way.
I didn't see that. But no, I mean, even like Newcastle, right? Like the Charlotte owner could have gone out and bought Newcastle United for, he had the wallet to do that.
Okay.
So that's what we're talking about in terms of where the MLS is going.
Going to end up with Newcastle type fans. Right. No, I'm just kidding. Newcastle actually has a really good supporter.
Geordies are good fans.
The team, the product on the field hasn't been so good, but
it's getting better. They made some moves, and I think they're winning lately, right?
Yep. Almiron's getting a little bit of fortune nowadays.
Between 2012 and 2019, the MLS grew in popularity by more or less than 25%. So you're talking about, a good, 5-6 year stretch there.
So my instinct is to say that it's more than 25, but everything's been wrong so far. So I'm going to go with less than 25.
Oh, you should have gone with more. That's 3 duds in a row. It's 27% rise in interest.
Well, that's what I think I would have said that
according
should
to,
be right.
I got a source on this one.
But I'm like, it can't be right if that's what I think tonight,
Nielsen Sports. Okay. So what was the U.S. men's national team's biggest drought between qualifying for the World Cup in terms of years? How many years went by?
That's
just kind of a random one in between.
It is kind of a random one. So we qualified in 1950. Mm-hmm. Famous, whatever.
You got the right date.
And then we were absolutely shambolic all the way until I believe it was 1990 in Italy, right? So that would make it 40 years.
That is spot on. I knew you would get that one right. All right. So we had the MLS inaugural opening games, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Of course, our Atlanta United crushed it with the season record attendance for the home opener that weekend, which was like 67,000.
Okay.
Who was the second largest attendance on opening day?
Who was the second largest attendance on opening day?
In the MLS.
And trying to remember who was at home.
I would not have guessed this at all.
Oh, because then it can't be Seattle. I mean, usually it's Seattle you would go immediately to as the second biggest, whatever.
But interestingly enough, Seattle played this team.
Who did Seattle play? It was Portland who played New England, right? It wasn't. That's the game that was.
That's your lifeline right there.
The desire, the let's just one. Who did Seattle play on opening day? They lost right on opening day.
They sure did.
Who the heck did they lose to?
Largest attending fans in what could be our rival soon. One of our many rivals. It's definitely
Nashville.
That's correct. Nashville. Mm-hmm. They had
right. That's right. They lost because Nashville's in the West. I always forget they moved to the West now, so they opened up against Seattle. Correct.
So they had like 30,000 fans there.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you, Nashville. And the thing is like I was super excited for Charlotte to have 74,000 people at their stadium. I know a lot of people are proud of Atlanta's attendance. We're going to continue to have great attendance at Atlanta United, but to me, this is why I did the trivia on MLS growth because the reason I'm doing the podcast with you is I'm just really bullish on the league and where we can be.
Sure.
And the fact that, in North Carolina at a football stadium, you can pack 74,000 to watch a soccer game.
I know.
People should be excited. That's like, and look, they lost, they played above their skis in the game. I watched it last night. But the fact that there's soccer in Charlotte, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was the kid Alvarez who scored a screamer
Oh.
on the opening goal. If you have, dear podcast listeners, you have a moment, go check out the first goal from LA Galaxy versus Charlotte. That's a golazo.
I can almost guarantee you that'll be goal of the week, because that
Could be goal of the season.
It could be goal of the season. I mean, it was truly
Right.
a world-class strike. Upper 90. Go
Left
watch it.
to right, all the way across the ball, all the way across the goal, on a rope, hit the upper 90. I mean,
All right, Dave. Thank you for humoring me with another ATL on Fire trivia.
Sure.
We're on to the recap.
I'm always happy to go 0 for 3.
The home opener, we did a podcast. It was fun. We went in and we won. It was kind of, I was expecting a harder game than we actually got from Kansas City.
So here's the reverse trivia question.
Hit me.
How many home openers have we ever won?
Ooh. So, well, we've only had, 5, right?
No, I mean, just even in terms of home openers, a home opener every year, right? It's not, we don't always open at home, but we have a home opener every year.
So I'm going to go with 2.
And the answer is 1. That was our first ever home open win.
Wow, you just extended ATL on Fire trivia. Well done.
Yeah.
And so we're
surprised by that. I didn't remember, but yeah.
We only got, 2 answers right
We've
there?
sucked at home to begin the season. And it goes to show, right? Of course, no inaugural season, Bobby Dodd. I mean, obviously, first game under DeBoer, first game under Heinze, those were not good things. So it makes some sense to me. The surprise would be in year 2, right? Under Tata, you would have thought we would have run the home opener, but we didn't. We lost that first home opener, and then we went on an amazing run after that.
So, Dave, our starting lineup against Sporting Kansas City. Sporting was Guzan in the back, Hernandez right back, Gutman left back, Campbell, Miles in the center back position, Alonso, who hopefully he's okay. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Josetu and Sedek in the middle, left and right, and then Araujo, Martinez, and Wolf were the starting lineup. What did you think about the starting lineup when you saw it?
Well, I thought my first thought was, oh no, right? Only in that, we didn't really know until that last minute, right, that whether Thiago Almada or Sosa might be coming back. And when you think about Sosa not being back, Almada not being present yet, Moreno still being injured too much to be in the starting lineup, Lennon not being in the starting lineup, and you think, yikes.
By the way, again, this goes back to our nagging thing with the communications team at Atlanta United, who didn't get back to my email either, by the way, on connecting with, getting more involved. There's no information around really when we should expect Thiago Almada, Sosa, Ibarra.
Well, the thing that kind of bothers me is not just that we don't have much information. There seems to be that certain insiders do have a little bit more information, right? That it's not a surprise to certain people. And that's a problem, right? So they tell them and they're not allowed to say it to anybody,
does that happen at other clubs in Europe? I don't know. Well, here we are by the Fire. I don't know.
My impression is no, that it doesn't. There's a lot more information about injuries. Yeah.
So, we sat next to each other during the game here. It felt like overall we were in pretty good control of the game. One thing that I've noticed in both games is certainly when you play 4 in the back, we're going to be more vulnerable at times to just looking like we're on our back heel. But
okay, yeah. So I think this is where we should start, right? So we were begging all last year to go to 4 in the back, and what I would first say is, first of all, credit, hallelujah, he's playing 4 in the back, Pineda, but then you got to wonder, if it's so obvious that we should be 4 in the back now, why in the world would you hesitate to change that during the season? I know he said, look, I don't want to change enough stuff, but that to me is surprising, right? That if you really, really felt that we're better in a 4, which he clearly does, because now we get, this whole time and he's going to go to a 4, why wouldn't you have changed that? I mean, it's not like those players have never heard of a 4 in the back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
But anyway, so what did you think of the 4 in the back?
Well, I mean, even in both games, even the one we just dudded on, I mean, it's more exciting soccer. I mean, that's just hands down. You're forced to. One thing you see with 4 in the back is what you always talk about. We're picking the ball up on the other side of half field, and then we're on the front foot from there. So yes, we're also vulnerable to, like, why are there 3 guys only back and they've got 5 people charging down at our 3 guys? You get both that, but to me, that's just exciting soccer. And when you have a Miles Robinson back there that kind of saved the day a couple times, particularly in the last game, I just prefer that style.
We talked last year about a number of moments where somebody was running at our back 4 or back 5, and none of the center 3 guys knew who was responsible for stepping up. And usually very late, Alan Franco would come flying out. He would, because it was late, he'd dive in, the guy go right by him, and then now we're 4 in the back. There was the exact same moment in this first Kansas City game in the 73rd minute where a guy was running right at our back 4, and it was so obvious. Campbell just stepped up, Robinson stayed at home, and they dealt with it very easily. There was no confusion about who was going to step.
Yeah. I mean, overall in that Kansas City game, I felt like we were pretty in control of the game.
Yeah, we really didn't give up many good chances.
Yeah.
The back 4 looked really, really good, considering the fact that Alan Franco didn't play because he was red carded.
So we started off with a really nice goal from Araujo that was assisted by Joseph Martinez, but really it was a really nice pass from not Josh Wolf, but his son Tyler Wolf. And he kind of picked it up kind of just past half field at an angle and just slotted the ball straight forward to Joseph Martinez, who did a little back heel flick to Araujo, who just ran into the 18 and just did the nice delicate touch right far post. I mean, it was just a really nice goal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talked about, and I think I said I was predicting a slow start for Atlanta United, and I said if we're going to buck that trend, the guy who's got to be spectacular is the star who's going to be on the field is Araujo. And, the moment that happened, I said, maybe we're going to be all right because, he just looked like on a different, he was playing a different game.
Yeah, he was
he just ran right by the defense.
Was the sweet and sour of that goal, right?
Yeah, and so then you're like, look, here we go. Araujo's on his way. He's going to be MLS MVP, and then he limps right off the field. 4 to 6 weeks hamstring.
Yeah, and that is super unfortunate, but the thing is, which I like about them, there's an article in Dirty South or AJC, I don't know. If there's an article that says 4 weeks, the good news there is the prognosis it wasn't like bleeding on the back of his hamstring, which I've had one of those before. I mean, that can take up to like 3 to 6 months when you have one of those. So
it looked to me relatively minor, actually, for a hamstring.
So again, best case scenario, he probably would be out for 5 to 6 weeks, it sounds like.
But Atlanta United has been extremely cautious with injuries. To the point, maybe we'd talk about it more, but, Moreno in this game, right, in the first 2 games, in fact, right, still coming off the bench, right, not ready to go. And you got to wonder, because when Moreno comes on the field, he looked like he was pretty fine.
Fine. He was the best player in the field every time I've seen him.
And so you might say, all right, okay, but he's not, 90-minute fit yet. But honestly, when you're missing Sosa and Almada, excuse me, we're really missing Almiron. But if you're missing Almada, right, so the question is, can you afford to leave Araujo on an island in that opening game, or should Moreno have been in the starting lineup?
Yeah.
And maybe this is the right time to talk about it, because one of the things that strikes me is that, all right, so even if you say Moreno is only capable of playing 30 minutes, right? So let's say the medical staff decided that, Moreno is really only capable of playing 30 to 35 minutes.
Okay.
Why not start him? Let him play alongside Araujo for those 35 minutes, maybe get on the front foot and get in the lead, and then sub him after 35 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, especially at a home opener where you want to come out.
Right. Nobody ever does this. And the reason why nobody does it is because you've then used a sub and you don't have it for later. But, for just one sub, what's the worst case scenario? You say, like, look, in the first 20 minutes, 3 guys go down. None of them are forwards, so you can't take off Moreno. Let's say it's a goalkeeper and 2 defenders. So you have to sub those players. And then you're like, okay, now you're stuck, right? Moreno is only supposed to play 35 minutes, and he has to stay in the game. I mean, that's an extreme example, and it still doesn't mean you're playing short. It just means he has to go 90 when maybe you think he's only ready for 35. That's very, very, very unlikely to happen. And I would say, look, let's get him alongside, the best players. And I would argue in Colorado, right? Again, even if he's only ready to go 35, 40, even 45, why not start him? Try to get on the front foot, try to get the lead, rather than the idea is you kind of hang on, hope for the best, and then bring him on, to do whatever.
Yeah, Colorado, depending on what the injury is, because we don't really know.
Right.
What is it. If it's 25 degrees and he's got a soft muscle injury, then maybe don't play him in Colorado. But
they played him.
They did, right? Yeah.
They played him even when it was clear that the game was, probably going to get away from us. Yeah. So you were like, look, I agree with you. If it's cold at that point, then why risk him? Why not, put him on at all?
Spot on.
If he's really that injured. And so the fact that you played him meant that he really is ready to go for 35 no matter what.
You just said it. Yeah.
And I would argue, in fairness to Pineda, nobody does this, right? Nobody does this. But what it would signal, maybe this is why they don't do it, it would say, look, I think Moreno is worlds better than Sejdic. And if you believe in your squad, maybe it totally demoralizes your squad because you're like, look, he's so good that he not only he can't play the whole game, but he's still going to start and come off after 35.
Yeah.
Maybe it demoralizes the squad, but it's reality.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
So Araujo goes off, and who comes on? The guy that our intro of our podcast makes fun of, Dom Dwyer. So Dom comes on, and he gets our second goal.
Right. So tell the dear podcast listeners, maybe remind them what you said about Dom Dwyer.
I said, why the hell would we sign Dom Dwyer? And I still kind of am there.
And what did I say?
You said, well, there's a reason, because he knows how to score goals. He's a veteran.
You said he hasn't scored in 3 years and he's never going to score again. And I said, I think he's still got goals in him.
And I said at the end of the podcast, I'm a huge Dom Dwyer fan because he's out there and he needs to score for us. So as anybody, super excited.
So what did you think of Dom Dwyer?
Still skeptical, especially after the Colorado game, but I'll get to that.
Well, one of the things I'll say, go ahead.
But that goal, Joseph Martinez plays a long ball, into the right corner of the field, puts Dom Dwyer at the top of the 18. Dom Dwyer does a great little cheeky little move that, frankly, the Kansas City guy should have done better, but he cuts inside, does a great job, and then just bombs a shot near post, completely puts the keeper on his back foot, and it was a great goal. Great move, great goal.
And that suggests that he still has it. He can beat a guy and he can score.
Yeah.
The game also showed the other part of Dom Dwyer. So in the 83rd minute, when everything was open and there was a chance to really, put in, I think, the fourth goal, I think it was already 3-1, right? Dom Dwyer gets the ball, right? There's an early ball across that would have been an absolute easy breakaway tap in, whatever. I don't remember who was running. Might have been Wolf, or it might have been the new kid, Wiley, whatever. But anyway, he had no idea. We had no idea the guy was over there. No vision whatsoever. And it occurred to me now, having seen him limited for us, he has no idea what's around him. So, yes, he's big and strong. He can hold up a ball. Yes, he can clearly put the ball still in the net, but he has no idea who's around him.
Yeah. And, it was a good goal, though. But it was also a beautiful pass up the field by Martinez, who had 2 assists in the game. Let's talk about the goal that Kansas City scored against us. This was off of a corner kick.
Set piece.
Set piece, corner kick, again, one of our Achilles heels. And the way I looked at it on the replay was, it came in. There was a guy on Kansas City who basically beat almost 2 to 3 Atlanta United players. He just all hustle, got up, flicked it to the back post, and Josetu was ball watching, totally left his man open on the far post, and the guy just had a beautiful volley, ripped it in the far post.
Yeah, this is the classic zonal marking. There's no accountability. And there's two things that happen with the zone. One is nobody knows who's supposed to go after the ball, right? So it comes in, and often, the two guys, you and I who are standing this far apart, some guy can walk right in between us. And is it you who's supposed to get it? Is it me who's supposed to get it? We don't know, right? And so that's a problem. But the other problem with it that I see from this, and was, I think, evident on this play, the other problem with the zonal marking is even when it's clear who should go after the ball, you go after the ball. Everybody's supposed to be going for the ball, right? And so all you have to do, and teams have realized this, is all you have to do is fake like you're going to make a run in and just hold in that space behind. And so many times they clear it out, and because there's no man marking, right, they're like, oh, look, my job is to get to the ball. You get to the ball, you clear it, but that first clearance, if it's not great, it falls right to some guy at the top of the box, and boom, you give up the second goal. The secondary shot, I watched this a couple times, and I felt like, certainly I would have liked our center mids to get in there and win the ball and with a little more muscle. If I were, coaching against a zonal marking team, you would say, okay, we're going to send our two guys, really go after the ball. Hopefully you get in between them because they don't have a clue, and you can pick a guy right off, no problem. But we're just going to run 3 and drop 2 and let them hit it right back to us, and we're score goals, right? It's crazy.
I don't know that Josetu was zonal though. Like, it felt like that was his guy. Like, he was the only guy near him, so it had to be his guy.
Maybe.
And he just was.
I felt like
he literally just
zonal.
Watched him. Like, we'll watch it later, but literally, he had no one else to look at. So if he's in the zone, his zone was to mark that guy. You know what I mean? So at some point, the zone is your guy. So
yep,
I'm on with it. And then, so we're still up 2-1 at that point, right? Yep. And then we have a nice closer. It was towards the end of the game. Caleb Wiley, one of our homegrowns, comes on, and Moreno does
the professor. That's what I like to call
the professor. Just such a beautifully weighted slotted
moving
ball,
kind of slow,
moving kind of slow, just totally lulls them into what was that little slotted pass? He just knows right how to just direct right behind the defense. Beautiful, and Caleb was like, "Thank you." He's like, he owes Moreno a big hug.
In fairness, he did what Bella was unable to do last year. He stayed composed, and he actually finished beautifully.
Completely composed.
Yeah,
that's
a good sign.
Yeah, I'm high on Caleb Wiley. When he came on in the Colorado game, there was a lot against him, but in that game, you could see what this kid's got, and that was a lot of composure.
The interesting thing that I think we talked about a little bit, maybe in the podcast in the parking lot, is that Pineda did something that I think was I made sense to me, was obvious to me, which is instead of saying, okay, well, Lennon's a right back, Hernandez is a right back, they've got to compete for a spot, and Wiley is the backup left back, and Gutman's the left back, they got to compete for a spot. Why not in a moment say, okay, just because that's true, Wiley is an attacking player. Maybe, we don't know yet, but defensively, is he really, seasoned? Probably not. It's his first ever game, right? Lennon, we've always said, great attacking wise, occasionally weak defensively. Why not play them both together, right? Yeah. And allow a Lennon to just go forward with a guy behind him, or allow a Wiley to go forward with a guy behind him. And he did that. In both sides, he brought in the left back and the right back, the backup, as a midfielder, which I think is brilliant.
So we're about to go to the Colorado game, but in terms of starters and young players, Tyler Wolff started both games.
Yep.
What did you think about his performance overall in the first game, and then maybe as we transition to the Colorado game?
I said it. I think that if there was going to be a guy who was going to surprise us, it would be Tyler Wolff. I think he's shown some spark. He should have scored in the Colorado game. Would have made a huge difference early. He had a good chance. It was a good shot, and it was saved, but he probably really should have scored. So that's what you get with a really, really young player. They can be a spark, and then sometimes they miss something obvious. So overall, I thought, good start.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's – how old is he now? What's the Google say? He's only like 20 years old, right?
Let's see. I have it in front of me.
Maybe he's a little older. And, his dad played at University of South Carolina and then went into the MLS when the MLS had just began. So
he's 19.
He's 19. Yeah. So he's got good genes with his dad, Josh Wolff, who played here in Atlanta locally.
Caleb Wiley's 17.
17. Yeah. And we have
17 is ridiculous.
So much youth.
17 is really young.
Yeah. So Tyler's got a lot of potential ahead of him, and hopefully we can get his dad on the podcast here if we play our cards right. If you don't know
Josh Wolff,
Josh Wolff, Tyler's dad,
and
he's the coach of Austin FC.
Right,
we might have a connection. I'm not going to promise you fans anything, but
I was going to say he's awfully busy because he's a coach.
He's busy,
right?
Well, we might be able to sneak in like a little soundbite. Maybe we'll see what we can do. Also on Twitter, Archie Eversole responded to me. Maybe we can get him on too.
Nice.
So there's things happening here on ATL on Fire, and
so I think one thing. I was on Pineda, and I thought, okay, awesome starting four in the back, awesome bringing in the outside midfielders. The outside backs as midfielders late in the game. We talked about where are you going to get a spark from, and maybe that's the answer. You bring a guy like Wiley who might be really good attacking left back. You don't let him defend, but you bring him on for 20 minutes as a winger.
Yeah.
So I think credit to Pineda. He pulled all the right strings in the first game.
All right. So the second game, we go out to Colorado. There's rumors of maybe another snowstorm type of game.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about something that started in the first game and really, really, really was a thing in the second game. So the goal in the first game, you could already see it. I have a note from watching the game live. I'm like, why in the world are our outside backs on the weak side tucking in so far, right? So if the ball is on the left, right, and Gutman is our left back all the way on the far side, right? So the ball is on Brooks Lennon's side or is on Hernandez's side, and let's say Gutman's on the far side.
Yeah.
They have Gutman coming all the way in, and he's standing next to Robinson, right? And why?
Okay, well I hear you. Let's take a pause. Because I hear what you're saying, and that was part of the problem on the first goal that we got scored on against
the first goal, and the second goal we should have given up, and the third goal we should have given up. I mean, it was a disaster in the second game against Colorado for the exact reason. But you could see it in the first game. The moments that I thought we were vulnerable was when there was a switch in play. And we're so tucked in, that means that we allow somebody to play outside and we're like, we'll give them the cross. Those days are gone, my friend, right? Like, dear podcast listeners, soccer has gotten, the players are good enough to whip a ball in. If you give somebody a free cross and they put in a beautiful cross, there ain't nothing the center backs are going to do. Nothing. I mean, if it's a beautiful ball into a good spot, there's a good chance of scoring.
So you're saying like the second cross against us in Colorado? Or was that the third goal? I can't remember.
It was the first goal.
No, the first goal.
Oh, the first goal.
No, that wasn't the first goal. The second one was the whipped in cross. It was
Well, they were both were. Yeah.
So the first goal against. So
we're now in Colorado.
We're now in Colorado.
Okay.
It was supposed to be snowing. We were supposed to have Alonso as our defensive center mid, right?
Yep. Osvaldo Alonso.
Apparently,
who I thought, to be honest, was really terrific in the first game. Positionally, he's a little older. He's 36 or something, and he clearly, we can't count on him if Sosa were to really go down. I don't think he can play day in, day out for a whole season, but clearly in a one-off to expel Sosa,
job done.
Really well job done.
Yeah.
Job really well done.
Agreed. And apparently, they flew him out there to Colorado.
What happened?
I don't know if it was the altitude or whatever, and they run tests, I'm sure, on the players as a little physical before every game, maybe, or maybe he had like some chest pains. I don't know. Cardiologist checks him out, says, No, dude, you can't play.
Yeah, you're 36. You can't play at altitude.
So hopefully that's just a overly cautious type of situation. But
yikes!
Not the greatest news. Hopefully.
Anyway, so what would you have done now that you're facing no Sosa, no Osvaldo Alonso? What would you do?
Well, I'm no coach, Dave, so I'm going to leave this to you. But they did shift the lineup, right? So the lineup in this game, let me just shift my page here, was Guzan in the back, Hernandez right back, Gutman left back, Franco, and then Miles. And then the surprise was putting George Campbell in the Sosa role.
Yep.
At defensive center mid, and then to his left, Sedic and Josetu to his right, Lennon and Wolf as the wingers, and then Martinez up front.
I have to say, I was on Pineda so much, that he wouldn't change anything last year. And then we would get off to bad starts, and then he would try to adjust something late, right? And I'm like, why not be proactive and do things from the start if you know that that's the problem? And voila, new season, all of a sudden, right? So not only did he make the right call in the first game, 4 in the back, not only did he bring on the outside backs as midfielders, brilliant adjustment, and now we don't have our starting defensive center midfield, CDM out, Sosa, our backup out, right? Alonso. And what does he do? He plays all 3 center backs, and he plays Campbell as a defensive midfielder. I had to say, when I saw that, I said, absolutely brilliant. He's being proactive from the start. He didn't try to do what he did last year, and we're going to keep it the same. We're not going to move Campbell out or whatever. We'll play Sadic as a defensive midfield. That's what I thought he was going to do. He didn't do it. Right? It's like he's a new guy.
He stuck to his guns, right?
Yeah, who is this Pineda, and where was he last year?
Okay, so as you and I didn't talk about this, I'm with you.
Maybe he was listening to the podcast.
You're starting to sweat. I like it. No, I agree, man. I think, it was a bold move putting George Campbell in that role, which, I thought he did okay.
Defensively, he was good, but in the first game, there were a few times when he was trying to play out of the back where he gave the ball away badly, and this happened again as a defensive midfielder. He looks like great defensively, really good one-on-one. Positioning is good. Reading the game is good. The one thing that needs a little bit of sophistication, occasionally he's prone to a bad giveaway.
Yeah.
But that's going to come, right?
I even though you could give him a C+, B- in that game,
George Campbell just turned 20.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't be too down on that guy at all.
No, I'm not at all.
And I didn't realize how big he's a pretty tall guy.
He's huge.
He's a physical presence on the field.
6'2", Mikey Dobbs.
Okay,
6'2".
not gigantic, but
that's big for a footballer.
Yeah, he's a
not too many people beyond that, except for Yaya Toure and the old guy for Liverpool.
Yeah, and so overall, just very high on George Campbell. So
I thought it was a absolutely brilliant move. I was like, I couldn't believe he had made the adjustment. Bravo to him. The only thing I would have said is, look, Araujo not available. Almada not available, right? Martinez, still trying to find it or whatever. In my opinion, the really bold thing to do, Moreno has to be in the starting lineup, even if he can't go 90, even if you sub him off at halftime.
Yeah, I agree. That was the big flaw in the Colorado game. The other thing the commentators were saying is it sounds like very few teams play the kind of high press that we did during the 30 minutes. In
They look great for the first 30 minutes.
Mile high, right?
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
I think, I don't know how much truth there is to that. Did the altitude get to the team after that, you think?
They certainly died. They fell off a cliff. So I would say yes. I was thinking to myself, okay, in hindsight is 2020, right? Would it have been better for Pineda to have gone in there and parked the bus, right? And said, all right, let's be really defensively solid and whatever. The question is, if he were to do that, what would he do? I mean, the only thing he could have done is he could have reverted to a 5 in the back. He could have had Campbell, Robinson, and Franco. But then who's playing in the midfield? Who Mikey Dobbs?
You got Sedic and Josetu, and then...
Yeah, and Sejdic...
Is it Sejdic? Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know. I think so.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He has become the guy who gives the ball to the other team who scores on us, right? The number of giveaways he gives up. I don't know if you remember last year, right? We were 1 point away from missing a playoff spot, right? And we had a game where we had it in the bag. Sejdic was dribbling outside our own 18, and he just passed it. I think it was New York City FC at home, and we gave up a late goal. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And he just gave the ball away. He just keeps doing it.
Yeah. Well, which goal was it in this Colorado game? He just gave that square ball, and they took it over, and that was the one that whipped the cross in over Franco's head, and then Hernandez. That was a Sedic giveaway.
Right.
That was the second goal, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. It was,
terrible giveaway by Sedic on the goal.
It's definitely the second goal.
I wasn't really sure why Alan Franco was headed up the field a little bit, but I think he was so confident Sejdic had the ball, he was trying to give him an option. And when he lost the ball, he was like, ah.
So we're starting with the second goal. Okay, which we'll go back to the first goal. The second goal, you're right. It was 100% Sedic's fault for just giving away a square ball to the other team.
It was an atrocious giveaway.
It was an atrocious giveaway in 75% of the way down the field for Colorado. They picked it up, and the guy looked up and said, "Oh, thank you. I'm going to whip in a cross over Franco's head." Not Franco's fault, by the way.
Right.
Now
And I think it was hard. You couldn't see it on the TV because it was cut off. I felt like Franco was recovering back, almost like he was moving up to give Sejdic an option, like he was assuming, all right, maybe bring it across, and he was going to help play out of the back.
I felt like Alan Franco was kind of in the right spot. You know who wasn't, though?
Who?
Ronald Hernandez. I watched it over and over again. He was kind of ball watching a little bit, and he left his guy. He let his guy go behind him, far post, and stepped up. He had no reason because there's no danger in front of him. The danger was behind him, and he let his guy go behind him and behind Franco and let his wingman down. As far as I'm concerned, I watched it over and over again. I'm like, well, why would Hernandez have any need to step up? There was no one there for Hernandez to step up on. So why would you let another guy run behind you?
Well, I've seen a few times where, again, he got into trouble, but it seems to me like it was coached getting into trouble. He's coming in so far. That's not what you're talking about here. But Ronald Hernandez a few times has gotten into trouble where he's come over to help Franco, right? Because he's punched in so far, and then they just play it out to his guy who's wide open.
Yeah.
Which is atrocious, but that's what's being coached, because you can see Gutman doing it on the far side. When I think we should talk about the first goal, but so on the first goal, and I think we're going to play the clip, right? So if you're following us on YouTube, we have it paused, right? So before you play the clip, Atlanta United is in really good spot. First of all, you'll see, though, that instead of actually marking out on the wing, the right back, who I think is, Ronald Hernandez, or maybe now it's the right midfielder, I'm not sure.
I think that's Hernandez.
Is pinched in far enough where there's a lot of space to play out wide. Why? Does he need to be in there? No, he should be closer where he can close it down. But other than that, in the middle of the field, we have 5 players across the back, right? And they're all in good spots. Colorado only has 3 people forward. But what you're going to see on this play is that Gutman on the far side on the left back, he's going to come so far in to help on the cross. Why does he need to help? I don't know, because I think that Franco and Robinson have it all covered. And what ends up happening is they cross it all the way to the far side, and the guy is wide open on the far side. So play the clip.
I don't know. Gutman's got to cover his man who's right to his
He's
left.
covered right now.
Yeah, all right. Let's watch.
Play the clip. They play it out wide. He's slow to close him down. It is Brooks Lennon. Crosses it out. And look where Gutman is compared to where the ball is. Stop it now.
But
Right? So look where Gutman is, right? He's inside the box, and it's Tyler Wolff who's expected to come back and cover him. But so he was coming in and helping, and you say, okay, if there was an open guy, he would need to do that, and Tyler Wolff has gotten back. But who's the open guy? We got 4v2 right inside the penalty spot by the penalty spot. Why does Gutman need to be there?
Well, he shouldn't be there. But here's my bigger problem is look at Tyler Wolff's body language with that. Even
he's not hustling to get back.
Dude, he is not hustling to put any pressure on a guy who's about to cross the ball. What's the most dangerous thing that you can do? You cross the ball. In the English Premier League, are you kidding me? You would be like yanked off the field.
I'm not going to argue with you, but here's the thing. If our expectation is that we're going to stop goals by having Josh Wolff track a guy who's standing 6 yards away from the corner flag, we got a long season coming, right? Because that cannot be his role. That's got to be Gutman.
No, it's everyone's role to defend.
Sure.
It's everyone's role to defend. And I'm sorry, and if Gutman is a good fullback, he needs to be communicating, screaming, doing something. And then, you can look at it here, and then it's like a little late, try to leg chop, karate chop to... I already messed this up. Look at that.
Uh-oh. Mikey Dobbs actually hit the thing. So anyway, what ends up happening is that he crosses it back across, and Alan Franco is matched up in the middle, and he loses the duel.
I don't know what happened here. Where'd we go?
I think you're too far. Yes, right there.
Too far.
Ooh. Nope, a little further back.
No, it was in the... We're getting there. Here it is.
Finally got back to it. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty there.
And, yeah.
Describe it.
Jogging. Oh, too late. Karate kick. And it was a great header, but...
Yeah, so this is my point, which is to say Alan Franco's got him marked up completely. He's very tight. He loses the battle, and you can argue about why he lost the battle. He's got to win that battle. But you cannot allow a guy to have all day to serve in a ball and pick it out, right? He had all day to get that down and to cross it, and that never should have happened.
Okay, so there's 2 things right here, and you can see it. You got lackadaisical pressure on the ball, and then Alan Franco here is in front of the guy who's the danger. Instead, he should be positioned where his guy is to his right shoulder.
He's not goal side.
Yeah, right? He's not goal side. Yep. And then period the end. So
you're even teaching this to the young girls and your daughter's team.
You have to be goal side. So he's got his hips turned, but he's got his left shoulder up against the defender who's behind him, instead of having his right shoulder on the defender where he can see the ball coming across and the guy he's marking to his right.
So for those of you who are not on YouTube, that Alan Franco is standing just outside the 6-yard box, right in the middle of the penalty area. And actually the Colorado guy who scores, I can't remember his name, is actually standing goal side of him, which you would expect if that's true. The one thing I'm thinking here maybe is that Alan Franco thinks if he's goal side of me, he's offside.
Yeah.
And he's not offside because Gutman is actually back and is keeping him onside.
He can keep him offside if he shifts a little closer to the ball.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
but what my point is that yes, maybe Franco could have made a play and bailed him out, but that's a tough one to defend. It's a beautiful cross. When there's a beautiful cross, you're in trouble. Right? You cannot give up too many beautiful crosses. That's why you have to win the possession battle. And more importantly, that's why you got to go out and shut down the outside. And I could see it in game one when we won 3-1 easily. We kept giving away some really dangerous crosses because the outside backs were pinching in so far. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
All right.
It's the thing I think that Pineda hasn't corrected.
So that was the first goal. The second goal, where did that come from?
That was the one where Sadic gave it up, and there was
before that though, there's a pretty good chance from Tyler Wolf, where he got slotted into the 18. It was kind of odd because he just didn't feel like he had composure.
Yep.
On the ball, like he just didn't have his body settled correctly.
He looked a little bit 19-ish.
He looked a little 19-ish, which not a huge, but it was interesting. I mean, he kind of let his whole body and the ball drift away from the goal, and then tried a really nice effort at the last second to kind of play it far post, and just kind of scuffed it across the front of the goalie, and it didn't go in.
But I have to say, later in the half, right before the stroke of halftime, right, Martinez looked very 19-ish.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes.
So there's a ball put beautifully into Martinez, who's all alone at the penalty spot, and he makes a terrible first touch. Now, one thing I will say, and maybe I'm making excuses for people, but the state of the pitch in Colorado was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I think.
There was a lot of bobbles and stuff. So I don't know whether that messed him up there, but it was a terror. I mean, Martinez in his prime prior to ACL puts that ball away 95 times out of 100.
Yeah. So the 86th minute they scored on 86th minute or 84th minute. Miles gets his second yellow. Which, by the way, let's just take a step back on the refereeing in this game. What did you think of the refereeing in that Colorado game? He came out kind of early with the yellow cards.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a little aggressive, and that forced his hand a little bit. It didn't need to be. It didn't seem like it was a real out of control game. One thing that I find,
and the commentators actually said that they were like, "This is a pretty chill game."
Yeah, but
yet the ref had to throw like 3 yellows in the first 20 minutes.
One of the things I find about poor refereeing, and MLS is getting a little better, but still has poor refereeing. So when you have poor refereeing, the referees are doing the letter of the law instead of the spirit of the law, right? So, if you go back and review any of the decisions here, I don't think he made any decisions that you would say, oh, that's so atrocious or whatever. But as a referee, you got to step back, and if he watches that game as he should say, you know what? For a game that was not really that, testy, there was no, shoving, there were no real bad tackles. I gave out 4 or 5 yellow cards, and maybe that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a judge in any sports, and I'm familiar with surfing. Like, you can't give out high scores out of the gates. You got to set the bar a little lower, like, especially when the waves aren't good or it's not that chippy, and it wasn't that chippy. So I think you got to set the bar lower.
There's such a thing as a bad foul even that's not a yellow card, right? You can have a foul where a guy catches him pretty good, it's a bad foul, and in MLS it's always a yellow card. And at times you're like, look, if it wasn't intentional, it wasn't 2-footed, it wasn't dangerous, it was just a bad crap challenge, sometimes it's just a foul. Yeah. Right? It doesn't have to be a yellow card.
That referee didn't seem to know what just a foul was, is where I'm getting at.
He was very official, this is what you get in the MLS. And I think it's because these referees are constantly being evaluated in MLS, which is supposed to make them better. But in a sense, it makes them worse. They think, okay, I have to judge each moment. And he probably went through a review after this game, with the refereeing, head of refereeing. And in each one of those decisions, he's probably like, yeah, you got it right. You got to step back and say, okay, even if I got all the decisions right, did I get it right as a whole? And the answer there is no.
Exactly. Didn't understand the flow of the game. Didn't understand the way the game was flowing at all. So
we always talk about it sometimes in terms of controversial penalty decisions, and it's always like, well, the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And I always feel like the penalty box is there for the referee to use it to make the game fair. And so There are times when there's something might technically be a penalty, and you have to say nobody's going to be happy about it because it's a cheap, soft penalty. And there's times where the referees have to just, kind of look the other way.
So, I mean, exactly. You just put our best defender out on a little bump in the back type of play. Like, it certainly wasn't a clear and obvious like goal scoring opportunity. It was like, but right at midfield.
I thought that the second one probably should have been a yellow, but he shouldn't have been on a yellow to begin with.
Well, that's
a problem.
But that's,
and if he is on a yellow, I think he's got to keep it in the pocket and say, you know what, that first, he might say, look, those were 2 yellow card offenses. But if you think back and you're a good referee and you think, okay, what was the first yellow one? Was it a yellow, a strong yellow, or was it whatever?
Exactly.
And if it was a weak yellow, then you kind of have to say it better be a super strong yellow for me to give the second one.
And you see that with the class of the EPL refs.
Yes.
You don't see it with that guy in that game.
Right. It's
and
just
it was
the difference between quality refereeing in the EPL and MLS. I agree.
It was so frustrating. And it's like, all right, now you're going to cost another loss of a player of Atlanta United for the next game against Charlotte. It's against Charlotte, right? Who are we playing next?
I think that's the case.
Help me out, Dave. But anyway, that I agree. I was a little perturbed by the refereeing, even though, like, yeah, if you look at each case individually in slow motion, like, okay, I get it. But it doesn't represent that game.
Yeah, Charlotte at the Benz. I have it down at 4:30 on Sunday.
Okay. Then they come down and score in the 86th minute against us. It was a pretty good goal by Colorado, probably maybe their best. I don't know.
Yep. I mean, at that point,
best team goal.
The game was over.
We're down a man. The game's over.
Yeah, I mean, once I have to say, one thing I felt, Pineda, and he even said something about this in the after-game interview. He's like, even when we were down a man, we were still attacking. And I have to say, you got to understand the psychology of a team. When you go down a man like that, what I would have done is say, okay, let's drop a guy into the back let's sit it. We're not coming back down a man, down 3 goals, right? Let's just keep it from getting ugly, right? There's a moment when a coach has to understand the team and understand that 5-6-0 is way worse than 3-0.
See, I'm on the other side of that. I was excited that we were going for the consolation goal. I
would have parked the bus at that point.
At that point, I wanted Caleb Wiley or somebody to get us another goal just for a little bit of spirit. You know what I mean? And it didn't feel like we were going to go down 4 or 5 at that point. So I was okay with giving up.
I think we could have. They were only playing 3 in the back at that point. And they got a couple of late chances. It could have gotten, goal after goal after goal, right? Which also, ultimately, the other thing is it's not even just the psychology of it. In MLS where it tends to be bunched down at the, goal differential could come into play at some point. Right, you don't want to suddenly ship 5-6 goals. They didn't, so okay.
It was 3-0. So it was a tough loss, 3-0. Where's your gut at right now with this team, with a lot of uncertainty on who's even going to be available next Sunday against Charlotte at home? Again, I have no idea. Like, we could be down 7 starters come Sunday, right?
The hint that I have heard is that the visa things will all be wrapped up. So I think you have to assume.
Where's your hint coming from?
Some stuff that they said on the broadcast, and maybe something I'm reading. I'm not sure. But we're coming to you Sunday night, so we're still a week away. Yesterday was the Colorado game, so I'm guessing that Almada and Sosa are both available.
So we're going to see an Almada appearance.
I would think so.
All right.
It wouldn't surprise me to see Sosa and Almada in the starting lineup even.
Okay. Oh, so the other thing that happened in that Colorado game that you were saying could happen is you got Hernandez and then Lennon playing up front. So that came to fruition, right?
Yeah, that's what he started with that in this. All right. Lennon did start this game, right?
Yeah, in Colorado he started, yeah.
Yeah, so that he started with that lineup, which I really like.
So it was actually Hernandez, Huzetu in front, and then Lennon even further up.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, to me, the big problem is Sejdic, right? Sejdic is not offering anything offensively. He's giving the ball away, right? But the question is, what is the alternative?
I guess Emerson Hyman, right? So when's he going to be available?
He's clearly not available. He's clearly not ready to play at all.
They're holding him back.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even on the bench in either of these games. So he is not available.
Yet again, we know no timeline though, right?
Yeah, no timeline. Clearly.
Thanks for that, Atlanta United.
But what did you think of the subs, right? It's interesting. He left on Wolf and he took off Campbell. Why? Because Wolf wasn't playing that well. He had really died off. He was good in the first 30 minutes when he got the chance, but he looked like he was really tiring. And we don't have anybody else playing defense in the middle. Why take off Campbell?
Who did you put in for Campbell? Caleb Wiley?
Yeah, I think that's...
Or Moreno?
They brought him in at the same time, so I can't remember exactly for sure, but I think it was Moreno.
It would have to be Moreno, right?
Yeah, Moreno came in, but he didn't take off Wolf. I mean, I guess you'd say, okay, it's two attacking players, but balance. What's interesting is that so many times you think, okay, if you're trying to get a goal back, you put in two attacking players, you take off a defender, but it's always better to have balance. You will always score more goals.
And then, Dom Dwyer came on, and that was the Dom Dwyer I was expecting. He, did a dumb... he, could have gotten he just shoved a guy for no reason.
He did shove a guy for no reason.
And it's you got to have
angry.
You got to have a cooler head. So, I don't know.
Yeah, he could have... it wasn't really a bad thing, and he got a yellow card for it, but it was just totally unprovoked.
Yeah, it was unprovoked. It was just frustration.
Very, very much frustration.
Yeah. And he should be the guy that's the leader on the field at his age. So I don't know. I get it, but at the same time. What else you got, Dave? We're about an hour into this podcast.
Wow.
We've talked about it all.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I have to say is that I was really, really on Pineda and was, as last year I was not so high on Pineda when we started this season. Huge question mark. So far in the first two games, I think he got it right. Now, it's interesting. After the Colorado game, he said, "This is on me. I got it wrong completely." I'm not really sure what other choice he had.
But that's what he's got to say.
Sure, right? but I think his move to play Campbell defensive midfield was genius. Yeah. And he didn't have a lot of other options. Yeah. Right?
I don't think that game was on him at all.
The real question was, had Osvaldo Alonso been available, he presumably would have started defensive midfield. Would he have played Campbell alongside him? And I think that would have been the gutsy move and the smart thing to do, either two of them in the midfield or even five in the back, dreaded, a little bit park the bus. And I don't think he would have done that. But
no, I think we would have seen Sadiq.
I think as a coach, you have to realize that, look, he keeps saying, "Oh, we have such a deep, team, blah, blah, blah." Yes, I think we have deep players. We went over this in the first podcast, but there is a huge drop off, right, between a Moreno and a Sadic, right? There is a huge missing attacking piece. If there's no Moreno, no Araujo, no Almiron, the creativity is just not there. And as a coach, you can't say my squad is so good, it's going to be fine. You have to realize we're missing, we have a super creative team, we're missing all of them, right? And so what are you going to do about that, right? Yeah. And there's nothing he can do, obviously, but I think it's a little naive to be saying that, which is why I was saying, would it have been awesome even in the first game? I think, to me, a really gutsy coach would have started Moreno alongside Araujo, get all the creativity together where it's really hard to defend, even if that's only for 30 or 45 minutes, and then sub him off rather than subbing him on.
Okay. What else you got, Dave? We got Charlotte next Sunday.
Yeah, thank God. Charlotte is not a good team, and presumably on the road, you got to figure that Atlanta United. So the thing that I would say, the other thing about the Colorado game that was maybe a little bit disappointing, is the one thing you might have said about this Atlanta United team is they might be good enough to go even on the road with a not good attacking side and give up either a shutout or only give up one goal. And they didn't. They kind of, fell apart. And to me, it wasn't actually bad defending, right? We didn't see guys get beat, right? What I didn't like, there were two things that cost us. One, this inexplicable outside backs tucking in far.
Pinching in.
Right, which is why, right? Especially because you have two great center backs and you have a defensive midfielder, which you saw in those key moments. We had three guys usually marking one. You don't need those guys to tuck in.
And by doing the tucking in, you're almost creating the same problem we had with five in the back, which is like, who's got the ball?
Yeah, who's going to defend those guys in the middle because they're all there, but nobody's responsible, and you're allowing somebody to have a free cross, right? Which is totally shambolic. And so one of the things that might be disappointing to me is that I would have said, looking at the lineup going into this game, I would have expected us to be really good still defensively, right? We had our starting back four, right? And I would have thought, we should be able to go into Colorado and give up, one, maybe zero. Now, that being said, Colorado, I think, has lost twice in the last 2 or 3 years at home because of the altitude. Right. That's clearly keeping them keeping them competitive. Yeah. Right. So, maybe you just chalk it up and you say, all right, we were phenomenal on the front foot in the first 30 minutes and the altitude got us, and who cares? And obviously the cavalry is coming, right? Sosa's coming back. Almada's coming back. Even Araujo's not gone that long. So.
I hope we see Almada on Sunday.
You got to figure Moreno, God bless, he's got to be ready to start.
So we have four of the mama on
So we have Martinez, we have Moreno for sure. Two, we got Ma.
And hopefully Almada.
Almada would be Ma.
Yeah, so we have Ma.
We don't have Araujo. But you don't need, honestly, I expected there to be injuries and other things. Do we need all four of them all the time? No. But I think 3 out of the 4 would be way better. The question is, Almada having not been with the team that long, would you expect him to be in the starting lineup? Probably not. And here's what I would say is that Almada's probably going to be, I'm going to guess if Almada is available, he comes off the bench for 30 minutes. But again, wouldn't it be nice to play Almada with Moreno and really give him something to think about, even if he's only going to play 45 and bring him off?
Especially against a Charlotte team.
Against a Charlotte team that's clearly going to come here and be afraid, right? Yeah.
The problem is then if you come out guns blazing with your, and you don't get it done in the first 30 minutes, which I always say, then you give Charlotte the open invitation to give us a dagger at home.
But, we have our starting back four. Obviously, Robinson's not going to be there, but George Campbell's perfectly capable, so there's not a problem. And you got to expect Osvaldo and Sosa to be available, right? If that's the case, you can play one of them, and I'm going to guess Osvaldo starts, assuming there's no complications from this heart issue, whatever. And then, Sosa comes on, so that 5 should be able to stuff Charlotte.
All right, let's hope so. So, are you going to the game on Sunday? We haven't sorted that out.
We haven't sorted it out yet, but I hope to.
I do too, but I haven't talked to the wifey about that. All right, well, this is episode 42.
I have one more question for you.
What you got? Any
word from our contest winner?
Yeah, she posted on Twitter. She had a beautiful photo of the new forest green kit and super excited. Eliana,
congratulations. Yeah. The forest green kit.
Yeah. So
did you like it when you finally saw it out on the whole field?
I did. On TV, I thought it looked great.
Now that I've seen people with it, if you recall, I was a little bit skeptical, but in person, it's actually nicer than you think.
Yeah. Well, they say it goes nice with jeans, which I get because that green color, complements blue jeans. So,
All right,
people. Thanks for listening.